Alafia family. Abo Ru, Abo Ye, Abo Sheshe, Abo Ado Asohru, Ikara, Ikale, Gasan, whatever time you're viewing this video. Faith that you're viewing with good health and good peace. Faith that you're coming with an open mind and an open heart to receive me. Thank you for all respect and honor to take time to let me teach us and advance us and have an open discussion today. My name is Baba Kwefi Jacomo Yokan. For anyone who is new here at the ATRA Academy, all power and gratitude given to Baba Oleri and Ujiwale of the Udurudi and Real Temple for holding the academy down over the last couple of days. And I'm coming off a hiatus, and I want to speak about a couple of things tonight, specifically about different questions people have been having. Tonight, I specifically want to speak about the question I have proposed is to speak about money. Highly because when it comes to not only IFA, but all ATR, African traditional religious practices and spiritual belief systems, a lot of people disrespect us. And they start coming at us like we're our pastors and we're just passing around a collection plate, asking for 10% of your income. And that is nowhere near the ideology that we have, the mentality that we have inside of these cultures. Specifically in Ifa, we say Iba Shepo. What do Iba Shepo mean? Iba Shepo is the universal law of relationship. It is the universal law of exchange. It is the universal understanding of transaction. Okay? So we have to understand that money is important, not because the Orisa is greedy. It's because when it comes to sacrifice and exchange, money is one of the highest frequencies of commitment, right? When you pay your money, it don't matter if it's $5, it don't matter if it's $10, it don't matter what it is. Once you pay that money, you're going to commit yourself mentally and spiritually. Okay? And why we don't really understand when it comes to in our cultures, specifically our lineage, why we don't understand the understanding of free all the time is because when it comes to spirituality, free has no binding ashay. It has no binding force to it. You have to bind this energy into reality to make sure you can manifest things. Ashay? So we don't really have that understanding. Understanding that when it comes to money, that you're making an investment. When it comes to your spirituality, understand that the Ori, it recognizes all investments. This is why sacrificial engagement, sacrificial exchanges, the ashay being exchanged is so important inside of our cultures, family. So we have to keep this in mind. We have to remember that a person who refuses to pay for spiritual work is usually the same person who abandons their spiritual practice when things get a little bit uncomfortable, when things get a little tough, when they run into no, when they run into information that they don't like. This is when they abandon their practice. These be the same people who want the practice for free. They want the easy way. But the people who invested the time, the people who invested the energy, and most importantly, the people who invested their hard-earned sacrificial dollars is the people who advance forward in our cultures, families. And this is just how it works, right? Because you have to prove your seriousness when it comes to the Udi. You have to prove your seriousness. Don't act like these spiritual forces don't know when you're playing around. Don't act like the spiritual forces don't know when you're serious. And when you only got $50 and you use 25 of it to buy those materials for the Ebo, or you made any type of sacrifice when it comes to advancing yourself spiritually. Don't act like it is not recognized in the spiritual realm, in the ancestral realm of families. So this is something to keep in mind, right? So understand that Ifa is not a church, and it never will be, families. Church theology, it will always teach us, and it always will lead us to give because God demands it, that the spiritual leaders should suffer, right? That there should be the deacons shouldn't be paid, right? And the choir shouldn't be paid. In the evangelists and the missionaries and everyone else in the church, right? Only the pastor or the reverend, right? The church will say that you have to pay to prove your faith. That poverty equals holiness, right? But Ifa rejects this type of mentality completely. That we believe that balance is not suffering. Suffering is suffering, families. Don't let the Western thinking make you a slave. That when we talk about engagement, or we talk about exchange, for a better term. When we talk about exchange, it's not guilt, family. That wealth comes with character. And character is proven, right? Character needs to be proven. Wealth doesn't have anything to do with that. If you have bad character when you're poor, you're going to have bad character when you're rich and you're wealthy. If you have good character when you're poor, you're going to have good character when you're rich and wealthy. Not saying you will not be tempted and tried more, but that is a conversation for other spiritual assessments. Okay? And better yet, we teach that spiritual power that stands upright inside of the world, right? So your ancestors, your order, right? Your ori. No spiritual being that loves and cares for you, all the way up to the ideology of a God, doesn't want you to suffer, family. They doesn't want you to live in poverty. They don't want you to give up everything that you have. So that's something to keep in mind. Remember that, Baba says that, a elwo is not a preacher, right? Begging for donations. An elwo is a custodian of destiny, right? A custodian of destiny. You do not approach destiny without anything to exchange. You do not approach destiny empty-handed, family, right? When we start talking about Orunmila, understand that no one went to Orunmila in ancient times without something in their hands. Not because Orunmila needed something. We understand that Babalaos is some of the wealthiest beings in the world. But because respect will open doors. Gratitude, right, will open doors. Not because we need charity. Because we know when it comes to exchanging, then we understand transactions. Then we understand that the person has taken into account, right? So why is money required, right? Will be the next question. Understand that we don't believe prayer only is spirituality here. It is action-based. When you pray, you must move your feet. African proverb. We call it work because that's exactly what it is. Sometimes you have to travel somewhere to find an item. Sometimes you might have to buy a tool to get the item. Sometimes you might have to buy the item. Understand that our spiritual practice requires large ethics of work. This is how we are able to see more results. When they start talking about spells, they start talking about all of this, it's because we're doing work. When you see that W-O-R-K in all caps and quotations, right? When you're getting work done. This is why we have that understanding and that term inside of our cultures, family, right? Because spirituality, it is action-based. So, to consult Ifa, it requires time of your Babalawo, knowledge that is inherited throughout generations. You got sacred tools all the way, from the herbs down to the aikin, right? You got maintenance of these shrines. You have feedings of Igor and Orisa. You got sacrifice, ebos, itutu, adimu, different materials and preparation that comes in with those. And just ritual space. So sometimes in certain practices, someone maybe need to rent a certain space for a certain ceremony or ritual. Okay? Nothing in Aye appears just by wishing here, family. You can sit on your knees and close your eyes and pray to whatever frequency you want non-stop and think that is enough. And you will get nowhere. Even the Orisa must be fed. Not because they are hungry and starving, but because relationship requires a reciprocation frequency, family. Right? If you do not reciprocate the exchange, there is no exchange. So what you do not maintain will abandon you. It is clearly a belief inside of our culture. What you do not maintain will abandon you. Money is one of the only ways maintenance happens inside of this physical world. I'll repeat it again. Money is one of the only ways maintenance is able to happen inside of this world. Nothing gets fixed, repaired, created anew, or even destroyed without money in place inside of this human experience, family. So for simple creation, for simple manifestation, for simple shedding, right? Sacrifices, we could just even use the term of rituals and spells, and cleansings. It's going to come with a level of money, income, or capital, families. So we have to keep these, components in mind, okay? So when it comes to blood, right? I want to take time to speak about blood. Money is not worshipped, okay? But it is understood. I'll say it one more time. Money is not worshipped. It is understood. We have an understanding to frequency and vibration inside of our cultures. Our mentality and ideology forces us through natural frequency to sit and study and understand what we need inside of this spiritual makeup, families. Understand that it is not praised, but it is respected. Money is the modern corruption, right, of spirituality. This is what the Western thinking says. Money is not any type of way the corruption of spirituality. It is the physical blood that allows destiny to move through the marketplace of the earth. Once again, we teach that heaven, Orun, is the true home. And Aye, earth, is the marketplace. And that one day you will return back home. But right now, you are in the marketplace where you are here to learn and exchange relationship. Right? Nothing moves in the marketplace without exchange. This is not, capitalism. This is the normal, universal, cosmic law of what we all choose to agree as humans. Is that if I work for something and I have these peach trees and you want some of my peaches, I'm going to need something in exchange because I took a long time to grow these peaches. I put in a lot of work and maybe money to grow these peaches. So if you want a peach and you haven't done any work for a peach, you must compensate me for my time, energy, knowledge, and resource of making this available to you. This is the normal human understanding. This is a comic law, families. Even before coins and paper was created, energy was paid with energy, right? Understand yam, palm oil, cola nut, cloth, labor, blood, time. All of this was exchange, family. Money is simply just the latest container for the exchange that we are using. We didn't always have paper money, and a lot of people always didn't have money at all. So we found things that I exchanged for time. I can find cowrie shells myself, but if you take a day or 2 days or a week and go and collect them and bring them to me, you save me time. That is where the valuable exchange comes from, fam. So money is simply the latest container for exchange. It is not the origin of it. So don't be mad at the money. Don't be mad because you have to exchange for the lesson. Don't be mad because you have to exchange for the ashay. Don't be mad because you have to exchange for the conversation. When you go and consult with a lawyer or anyone who has a prestigious degree of information, it could be a mentor or a head of something that just knows more than you. What do? You pay for consultation. And you're just getting told information. You are paying and exchanging for information. So you can take that information and you can go apply it and do more work inside of your life. But these systems only come to people who are serious about getting somewhere. You are only going to pay for a consultation if you are serious about what you are doing. So the people who don't want to pay is the people who are not truly serious foundationally about the spiritual system, or at least that's how a lot of us view it. That's where the energy and the frequency is at. Ashay? So understand that if I never told humanity to live detached from, material reality, this idea comes from the West, right? That's religious fear. Ifa tells us, know how the world works, or the world will work you. Ashay? You have to understand how it works. And the only way you truly understand is if you can be an applicant, if you can work on the application of things. And this is coming to applying thyself. Ashay? So understand that wealth is not opposed to spirituality, right? Orunmila himself is described as stable, established, surrounded by students and visitors. He is not, a starving man, right? And understand that a poor shrine cannot hold strong ashay. A broken El cannot carry and conduct others. It's not possible. It's not possible. So you want the person who is spiritually guiding you to live in poverty, to not know how to get himself out of poverty, to not be intelligent enough to have resources and be intelligent to be able to consult others and to be able to charge for such things? You want your spiritual guide to be lower than you. And this thinking comes from Western religions, family. Okay? So money as a shay in motion, right? A shay is understanding, a shay is condensing form. It moves, right? It opens doors, it feeds spirits, it sustains lineages, it stabilizes destiny. And money, when it is aligned with Ori in character, it becomes a tool of restoration. when rejected out of false holiness, it becomes a weapon used by others, right? Without being able to have money, you will not be able to protect yourself. And eventually, your enemies, your detractors, eventually will succeed. So, family, understand that Ifa never told us to reject the marketplace, right? It told us to master it. It told us to understand of how to take care of ourselves, of how to thrive. And Ifa teaches you abundance and prosperity. Ifa teaches you what true wealth is. So we're not too drunk on the concept of wealth. We already have it. We already have it in many different ways. The El, the Babalawo, the Aya Ifa, we already have it. We're not searching for wealth. We're not seeking for wealth. We're attracting it. We are manifesting it. We are embodying it. We are living it. It becomes a lifestyle. It becomes a frequency. It becomes a mentality and an ideology, family. We're not searching and chasing for wealth inside this culture. Many people need to stop the disrespect. Ashe? Understand that Ifa is ancient. It's practical. Right? But most importantly, based on this conversation, Ifa is honest. Ifa ain't begging nobody. Ifa don't have time to belittle itself, to manipulate. We gotta understand. It does not pretend earth is heaven. It does not pretend the market pace is Orun. Ifa does not need to chase anything. It teaches us how to walk. It teaches us how to live with dignity on Aye, with power and balance that we are able to find and make available as tools. And this includes money as well, families. So it teaches this principle without worshiping it. We use it as a tool. We use it as a frequency, just like everything else. Okay? So what do Otoro Ogunda says about poverty? It says poverty is not a virtue, right? Otoro Ogunda speaks about being self-imposed lack, right? And pretending that, somehow spirituality means that you have to suffer. Spirituality means you have to go without, right? See, poverty weakens the Ori, is what this Odu tells us. That lack limits one's ability to perform sacrifices, honor your ancestors, and fulfill destiny. Because if you are lacking income, how can you get every item on that Ebo list or that Itutu list? How can you buy every food? Trust me. Me and I just left the grocery store, right? Trust. Ogunda, Otoro Ogunda teaches us that hard work without wisdom leads into exhaustion, which that grants us the ability to never be able to elevate, right? It cancels elevation for us. Otoro Ogunda warns us against Jiko Oromi, right? The mentality, accepting struggle as fate when it's actually neglect of alignment. Ifa says that Otoro Ogunda, that the person who refuses preparation will later call their failure humility. Listen to what I said. Let me repeat it again, families. Otoro Ogunda says that the person who refuses preparation will later call their failure humility. Adosun Meji tells us that spiritual power requires grounding, right?
that ritual without resources will eventually become weakness. That the ancestors do not support irresponsibility. And most times we end up in poverty because being irresponsible, right? Because our soon teaches us about the spiritual people who neglect the material world and later become bitter, resentful, and dependent people. So thinking that you're so spiritual that you don't have to go to work. And you're so spiritual that you have to do no work. That you're so granted from the ancestors that you don't have to pay for anything. Right? And the person who thinks that they don't have to pay for anything is the person who doesn't work for nothing. And that person becomes a thief. That person becomes untrustworthy. That person becomes undependable. That person becomes a dependent. Okay? The thinking is what we are trying to get rid of from the Western people. And this is what their religion tells you to do. Right? Adosumeji also tells us that a lineage that cannot sustain itself spiritually will or materialistically will eventually fade. Okay? So once again, remember that Adosumeji is speaking about spiritual power and why we must ground it. And that is going to take a level of sacrifice and exchange, families. Ogundameji tells us that strength must be supported. Ogundameji is blunt with this understanding that power without structure will collapse. Right? Rejecting material responsibility invites chaos. And discipline includes financial order, families. Ogundameji, specifically, I remember Baba Awis saying about Ogundameji. When we were going through Alaje, Ogun, he said that Ogundameji says that it directly opposes the idea that spiritual people should live on nothing. The Buddhist thinking, right? That we don't need anything to survive and move within our destiny, but everyone's destiny is different. So for this understanding, Ogundameji tells us that it directly opposes the idea that spiritual people should live on nothing. So this is telling us, right? Like I said, power without structure, it will collapse. Obada Otora, it tells us about false spirituality being exposed, right? It talks about people who shame wealth while secretly desiring it, right? It talks about people who use God, right? God will provide as an excuse for stagnation. Talking about that they're going to try to convince you that you don't need anything. That only thing you need is to sit there and God will provide for you. While everyone else is making money and exchanging money to advance and elevate. This is the Western thinking. Okay, families? Obada Udora talks about the spirituality, but the lack of discipline, right? You want to be so advanced in these cultures. We see people all the time. Taboo here and taboo there. Right? Trying to use it for power, trying to use it for advancement. They're trying to get into these cultures, get these pots, get these beads, and just use it for advancement. And this is what Obada Odura is trying to tell us, right? That the people who shame wealth is the people who secretly and discreetly try to desire it, right? And try to manifest it. Those are people who just want to pop up and flex on you. Oh, you thought I was down, right? Obada Odura warns us against these people. Ofun Omeji, right? What did Ofun Omeji say? Ofun Omeji tells us about the order of Shea. It tells us about blessings, right? Blessings must be showed in evidence in this world. Evidence of your blessings must be shown here on earth. Or people don't believe it, people don't see it, and they don't believe it. Out of sight, out of mind. If you don't have the house, if you don't have the car, y'all know how our community go. If you don't have the new house, if you don't have the new clothes, if you don't have the new car, we don't believe you got it. That's how the normal basis of our community works. Some of us know the OG, right? Who wear the same clothes 6 days a week, but got a knot in his pocket though, right? Because he's doing the work. He's applying himself. He understands what the marketplace is. He is a man of exchange, exchanging time, energy, and knowledge for money so he can advance in the world. Okay? Blessings must be shown in evidence inside of this human world, families. This is what Ofun Meji tells us about blessings. And yes, Ofun Omeji also speaks about the Ori. It speaks about the Ori, right? Is only satisfied. Not, I'm going to say, let's take away the term only. But the Ori is satisfied when life reflects a balance of material and spiritual. Right? How much Epo have you had to use? How much Ati have you had to use since you got into this culture? Just the normal materials going to need to be the normal materials you're going to need to be a authentic practitioner. You're going to need money. Whether you're giving it to the Africans down at the market, or you're giving it to whatever Oriental indigenous stores that we can go to get these specific items that we use inside the culture, you're going to need some money. So we have to understand that Ofun Meji tells us that the Ori is satisfied when the life reflects balance of the spiritual and the material, right? A life full of prayer but empty, right? A life full of prayer but empty of results is blasphemy. It is a result of being incomplete. Okay? You should be praying for abundance. You should be praying for prosperity. You should be praying for wealth and a better life. And this is going to come with, right? If you have more money, you have more spiritual blessings, you have more in general. You have a house, then once you get your real estate, how many boys you think you're gonna need then? Right? How much protection you think you're gonna need then? How many cleansings you think you're gonna need then? Right? Just by getting a business, just by getting the property, right? So the more you get is the more you're going to have, family. Stop asking for things and not ready to accept the responsibility it comes with. Okay? And finally, I want to speak about Osameji. Because Osameji is warning against romanticizing about feeling bad for yourself. Let's just use the term of suffering, right? Osameji tells us the teachings that struggle is sometimes a lesson and not a destination, right? Sometimes it is a journey that you're going through, and where you are in your path, in your lane, it must require you to go through some turmoil or tribulation. That people who cling on to suffering will resist growth. Don't cling on to it. Experience it. Be open to it. Don't be fearful of it. Learn from it and grow from it and move forward, family, is what Osameji is telling us. Osameji warns against glorifying the hardships. No, it is just something that I made it through. It was not who I am, and it did not make me. It is something that I overcame. It is something that I conquered. These situations, these downfalls do not tell me who I am. I have overcame. And the struggle, the suffering, has taught me what I needed to advance and elevate forward. So it happened, but I also happen as well, right? Osameji tells us that wealth with character is prepared over suffering with pride, right? So this is something to keep in mind, that our ideology and our mentality when it comes to money is completely different, right? We do not worship wealth, but we do not shame poverty either, especially if it's caused by specific circumstances, which we start to understand inside of our cultures more than others, right? So just to summarize the Odu, because I see some people asking for a quick summary. Just to summarize it, and then I'll get out you guys' hair here. Just to keep it clear, I guess, we spoke about Ofumeji, right? Ofumeji is going to teach you about completion requires provision, right? That's like the clearest way I can make that understand. Completion requires provision. Ogunda Meji is going to tell you that power needs structure and resources, family. Ododo Ogunda is going to tell you that poverty is not holiness or advanced spirituality. And Arosun Meji is going to tell you that spirituality or the spiritual neglect leads to material decay, right? So our cultures have just a different mentality when it comes to wealth, when it comes to poverty, when it comes to advancing, and why we have to pay for something, family. Asher? So with all faith that we have retained some of this information within our notes, right? Remember to not choose lack as our identity. Remember, rejecting tools that destiny provides is considered, something that we condemn. And confusing endurance with wisdom, family. Asher, do not confuse endurance with wisdom. So power is ultimate, families. Faith that you have retained some of this information inside of your notes. For anyone who have any questions, you can put them down in the comment section or message us directly. We've been struggling with schedule here. We're trying to get the lives between me and Baba Olede set up, or at least edited for the ones that we do already have and streamed. So give us some time. For anyone who needs any further assistance, we're always dealing with a long list of people, so don't hesitate to bug us. Don't hesitate to reach out in front of us and get in front of us, because sometimes we may just simply forget. Sometimes we just deal with a lot of people. So anyone who has been looking for more mentorship between me, Baba Olede, or Ojiwale, or I believe we have a Bed-to-Be class in the making coming up. We'll be trying to get that situated. I believe that is definitely being dropped before our Babalao, our L courses that we are arranging. So for everyone who have any questions, like I say, don't hesitate to message them privately, as far as any upcoming courses, classes, or anything that we have already covered. Ashe families. Ashe. Alafia. Alafia. Ado Asuru. God's you can take us out.